Okay, so we've been talking about the whole profit versus purpose thing, right? And you sent over this case study
Yeah,
from cognitive market research, and I gotta say, it's really fascinating stuff.
it is. It really dives deep into the kind of a nitty-gritty of how a business, especially in sustainable agriculture,
Right.
can try to balance those two sometimes competing priorities.
Yeah, and it's not just theoretical. This is like a real company,
Oh,
like
yeah.
a mid-sized organic food
I like
manufacturer
that.
that's actually struggling with this. And it kind of makes you think, if a company like this is having trouble, what does that mean?
Yeah,
For everyone else.
exactly. And I think what grabbed me right away was, this company has a lot going for it. Like they've got good brand loyalty.
Hmm.
Consumers seem to love their products.
Yeah,
They're riding that whole wave of, people wanting sustainable options.
totally.
And yet they're hitting this wall of profitability.
Yeah,
It's like the fundamentals are there, but the money part isn't quite adding up.
Yeah, and the study really breaks down like why that's happening. And it's
Mhm.
not just one thing, right? It's
Mhm.
it's kind of a perfect storm of factors that are pushing costs up
It
for
is.
these guys.
It is a perfect storm.
And it starts with the farming itself, right? Like organic methods
Yeah.
tend to be way more labor intensive.
Right.
So right off the bat, you've got higher personnel expenses.
Absolutely. More hands on deck,
Yeah, exactly.
more people involved, and that costs money.
And then there's the whole yield issue, right? Like,
Yeah.
a lot of times organic farming just doesn't produce as much volume
Right.
as conventional methods.
Yeah, you're often working with lower yields,
Yeah,
which means less product at the end of the day.
exactly. And so that obviously impacts, your overall bottom line.
100%.
And then on top of all that, you've got the cost of the raw materials themselves. Like
Yeah.
certified organic ingredients, they just cost more up front.
Oh, yeah. There's a premium there for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so you're kind of starting in a hole already.
Yeah, you're starting from a different baseline. And what's interesting is that the commitment to sustainability, it doesn't stop at the farm.
Right.
It goes way beyond that. And we're talking about some serious investments here.
Yeah.
Like the case study specifically talks about water efficient irrigation systems
Mm-hmm.
and precision agriculture tools.
Right.
These are big ticket
Yeah.
items, not just trendy buzzwords, but things that require a significant chunk of change up front.
Yeah. They're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. And they're banking on those
Yeah.
long-term environmental benefits to, pay off down the line.
Right. But it's not a one and done thing. Right.
No, it's not.
I mean, there are all these ongoing costs too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like just to prove that you're actually sustainable.
Yeah.
All the paperwork, the audits, the certifications.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole other layer of complexity and
Yeah.
expense.
Yeah, and it's not cheap.
No, it's definitely not free to be sustainable.
No, it's
All those certifications and inspections, they add up.
yeah. So you've got this constant pressure on costs at every stage of the game.
Yeah, it's like an uphill battle sometimes.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the equation, you've got the consumer,
Right.
right? And these days, everyone's saying they care about sustainability.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge trend.
And this company, they built their whole brand around it.
Exactly. It's core to their identity.
Right. But
Yeah.
then when it comes down to actually buying something,
Yeah,
price still matters.
it does.
Right. And people are still, tempted by the cheaper option.
Especially when you're talking about food, budgets are tight.
Yeah.
And those conventional products, they can be a lot more affordable.
It's that classic dilemma, right?
Yeah, it is.
Like what we say we care about versus what we actually do.
It's that values versus wallet moment,
Yeah,
standing in the grocery aisle.
exactly. So what we're going to do today is we're going to break down, the solutions that this cognitive market research study
Yeah,
came up with and see what we can learn from them.
absolutely. I think there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, because this isn't just about organic food,
Not at all.
This is about any business that's trying to do good
Yeah.
and make money at the same time.
100%. It's about finding that sweet spot where purpose and profit can coexist.
Exactly. So the report outlines this really comprehensive strategy
Yeah.
with 4 key parts.
It's a multi-pronged approach for sure.
Yeah. So we've got revenue diversification,
Okay.
pricing strategies,
Mm-hmm.
really targeted consumer engagement, and then
Mhm.
like a deep dive into cost optimization.
Makes sense to start there, I think, given all the cost pressures we've been talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get a handle on where the money's going, right?
Absolutely. Got to see where you can tighten things up.
And this wasn't just like, a quick glance at their expenses.
No, they went deep.
They brought in the data analytics.
Yeah, sophisticated stuff.
This benchmark,
And really got granular with it.
Yeah, they wanted to get past the surface level.
Right. It's not just about cutting costs across the board.
Yeah.
It's about finding those specific areas where things are out of whack.
Exactly. So they were able to identify these really specific inefficiencies.
Yeah, both within the company's operations and also in their supply chain.
Yeah, it's like using data to tell a story
It is.
about your costs.
That's like a financial detective story.
Yeah.
And they came up with some pretty concrete recommendations, too.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Like renegotiating supplier contracts, for example.
Okay.
That's a big one. Often you can secure more favorable terms just by going back to the table and having those tough conversations.
Right, and that can have a huge impact on your bottom line.
Oh, yeah, without sacrificing quality or sustainability. It's about leverage.
Yeah.
Even in a market that's focused on sustainability, there's still room to negotiate.
I never thought about it that way.
It's about being a savvy buyer. And then they also explored the idea of, switching to alternative sustainable materials.
Okay, so like if bamboo is cheaper than wood.
Exactly. But the key here is that it can't be just any old alternative.
Right.
It has to be comparable in quality.
Right, you don't want to compromise the product.
Exactly. You don't want to lose those core attributes.
Yeah.
It's about smart substitutions, informed choices.
Innovation.
By finding new and better ways to do things.
And then there's the technology piece, right?
Yes. Technology can be a huge game changer.
Yeah, so they talked about investing in more cost-effective technologies, particularly for things like energy-efficient infrastructure and precision farming techniques.
Right, and that might mean spending some money up front.
Yeah.
But the long-term payoff in terms of reduced energy consumption and, just being more efficient with resources, that could be huge.
Yeah, so it's like an investment that benefits both the planet and your profits.
Exactly, a win-win.
Okay, so we've tackled the cost side.
But you can't just cut your way to success.
Right. No, you got to think about revenue too.
Yeah. So let's talk about pricing.
All right, let's dive into that.
Because you can't just, raise prices willy-nilly.
Right, you need a strategy.
Yeah, so the report emphasizes that they didn't just tell this company to hike everything up.
No, they started with a really thorough competitive market analysis to see what was going on in the sustainable agriculture sector.
So basically like checking out the competition.
Exactly. Got to know what everyone else is charging.
Right, and what the market will actually bear.
Yeah. You can have the most amazing product in the world, but if it's priced too high, no one's going to buy it.
So what do they recommend?
Well, the key takeaway was to find that sweet spot.
Okay.
Between staying competitive, but also justifying the higher price that comes with sustainability.
Right, because it does inherently cost more.
It does.
To do things the right way.
Exactly, and that's where the concept of critical differentiators comes in. Okay, tell me more about that.
So it's about identifying those key things that make your product stand out.
Yeah.
And communicating those to the customer.
So like what makes it worth the extra money?
Exactly. Maybe it's superior nutritional value.
Okay.
Maybe it's ethical sourcing practices.
Right.
Maybe it's a demonstrably lower environmental impact.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you got to articulate that value proposition.
You got to make the case for it.
Exactly. And the right people have to hear that message too.
Right. You got to reach those consumers who actually care about this stuff.
100%. The ones who value sustainability.
And who are willing to pay a little extra for it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that takes us to the next piece of the puzzle, consumer targeting.
Okay. So how do you do that?
Well, the researchers recommended a much more focused approach. So instead of trying to appeal to everyone, they said zero in on those specific demographic groups who are already predisposed to prioritize sustainability in their purchases.
The true believers.
Yes, the ones who are less price sensitive when it comes to their values.
So they're not just looking for the cheapest thing on the shelf.
Exactly. They're looking for alignment between their values and their spending.
And how do you even figure out who those people are?
You got to do your homework.
Right.
It's all about consumer research.
Okay.
So you're talking about surveys, focus groups, analyzing market trends.
So basically gathering as much data as you can.
Exactly. You got to build a detailed picture of your ideal customer.
And then once you know who they are,
then you can tailor your marketing directly to them.
So you're not wasting money on people who don't care.
Exactly. It's about efficiency and effectiveness.
Right.
And it can actually strengthen your pricing power.
How so?
Well, if you're speaking directly to the values of your core customer, they're more likely to understand and accept a slightly higher price point.
Because they get it.
They get it.
They see the value.
Exactly. It's about finding your tribe. Yep. The people who resonate with your mission and are willing to support it with their wallets.
So it's not just about selling a product.
It's about building a community.
Okay, so we've covered cost optimization. We've talked about pricing.
Yeah.
We've talked about consumer targeting.
Right.
What's the fourth piece?
Revenue diversification.
Yes. So this is about finding new ways to bring in money.
Right. Going beyond just your core products.
Yeah.
So the researchers looked at emerging trends.
Okay.
And they identified some really interesting opportunities for this company.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, they suggested offering sustainable farming consultancy services.
Okay, so like sharing their expertise with other businesses.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, is leveraging what they already know and turning it into a new revenue stream.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly aligned with their mission, too.
Totally.
And then another idea was to offer eco-friendly packaging services.
Okay, so like helping other companies package their products sustainably?
Exactly. And there's a huge demand for that right now.
Yeah, everyone's trying to be more eco-conscious.
Exactly. So it's about spotting those needs in the market.
And then filling them.
Right, finding those synergistic opportunities.
Okay, so they implemented all these strategies.
They did.
What happened?
Well, the results were pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, that competitive market analysis, it really gave them a clear picture of where they stood. And that was crucial for everything else they did.
Right, so they knew what they were up against.
Exactly. And they were able to adjust their pricing accordingly.
Yeah.
And that led to a noticeable increase in sales.
That's awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
And their brand loyalty got even stronger.
So people were sticking with them.
Yeah. Especially those eco-conscious consumers. They were like, yeah, this is a company I can get behind.
That's huge.
It means they found that sweet spot between price and perceived value. And the consumer targeting that was a big win, too.
How so?
Well, they were able to attract those high-value customers, the ones who were really committed to sustainability.
Yeah.
And that led to more effective marketing campaigns, higher customer acquisition rates, and increased customer lifetime value.
Okay, so they're not just making one-off sales.
No, they're building long-term relationships.
Which is more sustainable in the long run.
Exactly. It's a more holistic approach.
And what about those new revenue streams?
Well, those were successful, too.
Good.
Yeah, the consultancy services and the packaging services.
Yeah.
They brought in some extra cash,
Okay.
diversified their income, and made them less vulnerable to market fluctuations.
So like a safety net.
Exactly.
So the big takeaway here is that you can actually be profitable.
You can.
While being sustainable.
100%.
You don't have to choose.
It's not an either-or situation.
So what's the secret?
Well, it's not really a secret. It's more like a formula.
Okay.
It's about managing your costs, understanding your market, pricing strategically, targeting the right customers, and finding new revenue streams that align with your values.
So it's like a holistic approach.
Exactly. You got to look at the whole picture.
So thinking about all this, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the opportunities that people might be overlooking?
Ooh, that's a good question.
In their own lives or businesses,
you
know, to kind of marry purpose and profit.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be just about food.
Right.
Like, what about renewable energy, ethical fashion,
okay,
sustainable technology?
Right.
There are so many possibilities.
Yeah.
So I guess the challenge for everyone listening is to think about what unique value you can create. Who's out there willing to pay for it?
Yeah.
And how can you do it in a way that benefits both you and the world around you?
It's a tall order, but this case study shows it can be done.
It definitely can be done.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing this with me.
Anytime.
This is a good one.
I'm glad you found it helpful.
I did. All right, we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.